So Gus, I'll hand over to you, but just in starting, I just wondered whether you might share with us what it is that you actually love the most about the work you do, and what gets you out of bed so early in the morning to do this work. And then I'll hand over and you can introduce the rest of the team.
No worries, thanks Jane. Well, I think probably, and we'll talk to these young people about what they love about farming, but I think in farming there's such diversity in what you do. There's no such thing as a typical day's work, and that's very much the case for what I do as well. So every day is different. I was down at Colac on Friday doing an outside broadcast for the Country Hour at a dairy farm. The week before that we were talking about the state budget, the week before that the federal budget, so probably the variety, Jane, is what I like. But yeah, and thanks for having me along as well, and nice, I drove across from Horsham this evening, it rained all the way, and that really is just a little preview of what we should expect on Wednesday, I think. The Bureau today told us sort of 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, keep going, mils possibly for the week, so, and that's for most of Victoria, so that's going to set everyone up really well if that comes to fruition. But I do have now the privilege of introducing these three young people who are before you. So we've got first on my left, Will Simpson, a Berrowillick farmer. Will as a grain farmer, but also I think quite a notable first cross ewe breeder. May have even been in the paper, I think, with your partner Jess at Witchyproof last year. Will was topping the sale with your first cross ewes. You went to school at Tyrrell College after school, and this is interesting, and we'll hear more about this, about the different and alternative pathways each of these three people have taken to end up back on the farm. Will studied a Bachelor of Community and Human Services and worked in that sector for a while before coming back to the farm. Been on the farm, I think, 5 years now, and keen on building and improving the business. Next across is James Taylor from Tandrum, which is north of Bendigo, for those who don't know. Running sheep, cattle, producing lucerne, and also a bit of crop, James tells me. Grew up in the area, went to school at East Loddon and Bendigo Senior as well. Studied a Bachelor of Ag at Melbourne Uni, went to work for Meat and Livestock Australia, then more recently Birchip Cropping Group, before returning to the farm full-time last year. So I won't talk too much more about these people because I'll let them do that for themselves. So I've talked a little bit about how you got to the point you're going, to the point where you are, but I think let's put that to you. So Danielle, for you, I didn't even introduce you, did I? I skipped past you. Let's go back. I should say this is sort of usually in bed by now, more of a morning person. Let's just put that down there. And now I can't find it. I still tucked it to the back. Got it. Danielle, so you grew up, you're the closest to where we are tonight, at Narrawillick, which is just not too far northeast of here. You grew up on the farm, you went to school at Charlton. After school, though, you went out of agriculture and did an apprenticeship with Burke's Butchers in Birchip. And you were telling me earlier, after the apprenticeship, you went to Longronon and studied there. And then you felt the call back to the farm. You were working at Cobram Estate near Bort for a while, but heavily involved in the farm, and now as well, back on the farm as well, full-time. So all three of you back on the farm, and at various stages, I suppose, of your involvement in the farm. Now I have to find my question sheet that I put to the back. Okay, so let's get back to where we were a couple of minutes ago. Danielle, for you there, I talked about, I suppose, your alternative pathway coming back to the farm. You were always involved in the farm, but you went away and did other things. Why did you go away, and then what was it that drew you back in? And microphones? I can hand this one across, Danny, if that's easiest.
This one in front of you, Gus.
So I took a different career path. When I finished school, I thought I'd join the Navy. I wanted to be a dental assistant. I did all the recruitment process. I passed the psych, the medical. All I had to do was the fitness. but I had a hockey accident where I lost the top of my finger.
Inflicted by the notorious Bort hockey team, you
Yes. That put the wind up me a bit. I got a bit scared, but I still played. I went back. They put my finger back on, but it got gangrene, so they cut it off. And then the Navy wanted medical records and things, and it just got a bit hard. And I thought maybe this wasn't for me, so I continued working as a shop girl at Burke's Butchers in Birchip, and I thought, why not do an apprenticeship? I'm here, I like it. I'm very involved with the customers. It was a good town, so I thought I'll do an apprenticeship. So I did 5 years as a butcher, and then thought I really liked being on the farm, but I sort of couldn't help out with harvest as much because that was a busy time in the butcher shop with Christmas orders and things. So when I finished up, I thought I'll go to Longy to study agribusiness and agronomy because I had an interest in that, and I thought I'd be a value asset to the farm if I come back. And I did 2 years at Longy and then thought, I'm not going to go straight back. Like, Dad's got it covered, we've got workers there, I'll just keep learning other things. So I went to Cobram Estate Olives and did 2 years there. I was mainly just there for the harvest, and then I was planting trees and learning all about just the process of olive oil making. And then I was like, what am I doing? I'm not as happy. Being with Dad and being on the farm, and I just was like, I need to go back. So August last year, I finished up at Cobram Estate and went back to the farm. Did harvest. I drive the truck. That's my favourite thing. I don't want harvest to end because I just love driving the truck. And then, this year I gave sewing a go. We're still sewing, and I love it. I'm just fully happy. Just doesn't matter how many hours you work, or you don't know what day it is. It doesn't matter. You're just doing whatever, just contributing to growing crops, and yeah.
And some people, they go away from the farm when they finish school with the strong intention of coming back. But when you went and worked in the shop and then did your butcher's apprenticeship, you didn't have that initial plan to come back to the farm?
No, I just was, living in the moment, just taking it day by day, and I loved helping with harvest, but I just sort of thought, it wasn't my time or wasn't my place. I'm just, all the blokes have got it covered, but yeah, I just thought, no, I'll give it a go, and yeah.
I might just hand over to James now, because for you, James, I suppose you went down perhaps a more traditional pathway in that you headed off to uni in Melbourne, you studied agriculture and then worked your way back to the farm through related industries.
Yeah, that was it. I'd always been involved and raised working on the farm with Mum and Dad and my grandparents, but was really curious about city life. So that's why I went to Melbourne Uni, because I wanted to have my go at living down there and studying. So,
and it might be a good opportunity to jump in there with something I was going to ask later. City life had that allure for you. What was it like when you eventually left it behind and you're working in Birchip Cropping Group and you're hours away from the city and you can't just go out for a night on the town in the city, and you've got a totally different lifestyle?
Yeah, I guess COVID sort of pulled that up a fair bit because I was travelling with MLA a lot, so I could catch up in Melbourne with friends frequently. But I think all good things come to an end and the partying stops, and you become career focused, and you realise this is where you want to be. So now I don't really miss going down to Melbourne and seeing my friends. I got a good insight, learnt that they're normal people and they're just like us down there, which is not how I left. I thought it would be different. So yeah.
And so you left the Birchip Cropping Group last year, and now you are back on the farm full time?
Yeah. Yep. So Mum and Dad were sort of slowing down, and I had my goals on farm, so I thought it was time to hook in. And while you're young and fit and still got ambition, to get involved.
I might hand over to Will now. Will, I don't know that many farmers have got, I think, is it a Bachelor of Community and Health Services? Know any other farmers with that bachelor?
No, I don't personally. No, closest is probably my dad. He does peer support work for the CFA. He has for decades. That's probably where it all stemmed from, to be honest. But
So when you headed off to uni, was it in your mind that you'd be back at the farm one day?
it was always there. It wasn't a clear cut defining, all right, I'll go for 3 years, I'll work for this long and I'll be back in the farm by this age and then start. It was never sort of clear cut for me. I was encouraged a lot by my 3 older sisters and parents to go away and just do something, anything else other than farming. So just to have a backup just in case everything hit the fan.
Were you involved in the farm during that time?
Yep, always was. So throughout school and then even when I was at uni, as soon as I'd have uni breaks, I'd come back and help out for cropping and harvest and landmarking and come back for the sheep sale every year and I used to really enjoy it. But I guess for me it was a bit of the same for both of you two. I think listening very similar in my mind, just a curiosity and wanting to go out, meet new people, do new things, sort of broaden your perspective, learn a lot of life lessons as well, because I feel like, being out there and doing it is the best way to do it. And I'm really happy with the way that my path, basically.
And Danny and James have only just recent returnees to the farm, but you've been there for a few years now.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it, but time's flown. I think, it's 5 years or so, full time, which, it's been awesome. I think I've really been able to sort of dig my feet in and put my roots into the business and into the farming practice. Obviously I don't have the theoretical background like you both do with the studies, and at times I'm thinking, oh damn it, I should have just studied ag, but I am still very grateful for the skills that I learnt doing the welfare, and I use them every day for myself and family and friends and through the community with footy and whatnot. So really developing and learning every year, and I think everyone who's involved with farming knows that you don't just learn it and then that's it. It's a development thing, and you'll never perfect farming. I don't think anyone ever will. It's a forever changing environment with too many variables to be able to predict and know everything about it.
James talked about, I'll stick with you for a second, Will. James talked about different lifestyles, and then you've talked about it there as well. And recently, of course, if anyone's a fan, you've been on Farmer Wants a Wife. What was it like, I suppose, being back at the farm, being involved in the glitz and glam, I suppose, of the Farmer Wants a Life, or perhaps it wasn't, and then back to the farm?
Yeah, busy. It was busy. It was a huge change, and that's the thing, like I had no idea about the TV world, and I don't think many people do unless you're in it, and it blew my mind. There was a lot of decision making, talking to families, friends, if it was going to be a good idea for me to do it, on a few different fronts, work-wise on the farm, if Dad's going to be able to handle me leaving after being there for so long, and me sort of bringing in implementing a lot of things and then sort of taking off for a couple of months. That was one of the biggest things. So a lot of long-term planning. It wasn't just a rash decision. And then, throughout the time, it was hard being away. It was really, really hard. And I was lucky to be back sooner than it would have been. But it was a bit of me sort of pushing what I wanted with the producers and whatnot. So I ended up back home early, which was really good. But struggled to be away after starting to put my roots in and sort of set things up, because you do all the hard work and then you take off at any time of the year and you know you're missing out on a section that pulls it all together. So, yeah.
I'll hand back to Danny now. Danny, we had a chat earlier, and obviously the rain was on the way. We knew it was coming, and I think 4:30 knock-off this morning, trying to get as much crop in before the rain as possible.
Yes, so I took the night shift, ended up at about 3 o'clock this morning. I had my partner Tom, he was driving around looking for firewood and lighting fires, because he was a bit worried me being there by myself, and he helped me load up, and then Dad sent the message, and we loaded up the cedar for him, and then we had to take the trucks back in case it was going to rain. So 4:30 this morning, in bed. Yeah, that was a big one, but anyway, that's what you got to do. Like, when you're on the farm, it doesn't matter, but you got to get it done, and it's just part of it. So, yeah.
And on that question about work-life balance, yes, you work till 4:30 this morning, but this is the busy time of the year, isn't it? And there are other times when you can perhaps take it a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's right. So like sowing, harvest, you do ridiculous hours, but between like the cropping and harvest, you have a bit of a downtime, like you're not doing crazy hours, so it sort of balances out, but it's all worth it. So
Have you got much crop left to get in?
I think it's about 1,000 acres left of barley, so hopefully this is a bit of rain, but not too much.
Give you a week off, I reckon, if we get 50 mil, more than a week
anyway,
maybe.
that's okay. Like rain's good, but yeah, we'll get it done. It'll be right.
Go to you now, James. I said earlier you do grow a bit of crop. Have you got the crop in?
Yeah, we've a couple of weeks ago finished with the barley, and I just this evening coming over looked up the rows and it's little green
Beautiful.
shoots. Yeah.
But probably more focused on at your business on sheep and cattle. It's been a pretty prosperous few years for
Yeah.
both of those industries, but not right now. What do you make of that about those prices being on the slide?
Try to put it in perspective with long-term averages and focus on what you can manage, which is productivity and getting your lambing percentage high enough and your keeping stocking rate up. Because at the end of the day, the market's really out of our control. And, you've got to get used to that if you're going to be a farmer. Yeah.
Go back to you, Will. Sheep and crop. You've got your first cross ewe breeding side of the business, and the cropping side. You've got all the cropping.
Yeah, we finished up a week and a half ago. A bit earlier than expected. Dad and I had a bit of a chat and we decided to drop 2 paddocks just with a dry outlook for the year and just management for our livestock as well. We just didn't want a bit of a buffer with a couple extra paddocks with the amount of mobs we had. But yeah, pretty good run. But yeah, it's good to see the green coming up in the rows. It was pretty patchy for a little while, and you can see some come up and then not others. You're like, oh no, here we go. The truth comes out now. We're on the highway too, which is a shocker if you make a mistake. It's
Yeah,
not
but you
good.
forgot to turn the cedar on for
Yeah.
a run, and there's no hiding
Been
that
done
one.
before, don't worry.
Yeah, okay. So, how are you feeling about the season ahead? You said you dropped a couple of paddocks out, but we've got this rain this week, but at the same time we've got a pretty negative long-term outlook. How do you balance those two up?
Yeah, it's a good question. And when we saw the forecast with potential rain over the next 2 weeks, sort of a week ago, Dad and I did discuss putting in an extra paddock, but yeah, weighing up with the potential risk and potential outcome, we decided against it. So, big thing for us, obviously in the Mallee, is moisture conservation. So, yeah, long-term planning since last year basically, and setting your goals, being realistic. Dad's still very conservative approach, whereas I'm probably a bit more toey to get going and do
How
things.
do you
And
go balancing that when you've got the two different attitudes?
yeah, depends how busy and tired we are.
The tempers get a little frayed.
Can. No, we're normally pretty good, but yeah, it's just we have to both acknowledge the different perspectives, and it's a big thing for me to acknowledge that Dad's been on the farm for 50 years. He's been doing the same thing for 50 years. He's got 50 years of long-term experience, and he's got a lot more data in his brain to work with rather than me. Like, I've been back for 5 years, and there have been some pretty good years in those 5 years. So of course I want to go and throw 150 kilos of urea on everything, but it's probably not the best idea if it's going to be a dry year.
We'll see. And so you talked there about dropping those paddocks out, and I suppose that raises the question for people contemplating agriculture and what it's like. There's a lot of decision making, isn't there? It's in some people's daily work, they don't really make a lot of decisions, but for farmers, you're making decisions and big, expensive decisions all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, and the flow-on effect of them as well. It's not just a short-term outcome, it's a long-term game, ag. So, yeah, a decision today could impact you for the next 10 years easily. So if it comes down to weed management, you think, oh no, I won't double knock that paddock, the flea bane's not too bad, and then you're going to have issues for the next 6 years. Or, yeah, you decide, oh, I'll spray that paddock, it's a bit wet, it might leave some bog marks, but it'll be right. And then you crop next year and it doesn't go in properly and it's rough, and you've got to deal with that same issue for however long. So there are really big decisions, and there's so many things to weigh up, and as a few people said, a lot of those variables are out of your control. So you do your best to minimise the risk and control what you can control, but you have to have that flexibility. That flexibility is a big thing for me that I try and maintain, and not get stuck in a sort of frame of mind of saying, right, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it, and that's it. You have to be able to deviate and change your course.
We'll go back to you, Danny, on that point about, I suppose, the pressure or the stress or the decision-making responsibilities. Not sure at your stage of your career how much of those you're shouldering at the moment, But does that worry you, I suppose, looking at other family members making decisions or decisions that you're being asked to make? Is that a burden that weighs on your mind?
Not really.
That's the confidence we want.
Yeah, Dad's got it sorted. I guess this year we dropped off a few contracting jobs just to make sure we could get ours all in the ground, even though it's not all in the ground yet.
Look, it's only the start of June.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it will be what it will be. Like, you make these decisions and you just hope for the best.
You've talked about this quite a lot, but what do you love about it? There are compromises being a farmer. We've talked about the lifestyle compromises, but what are the great things about it?
I don't see it as a job. I just see it as a lifestyle. You get up, I've got a little Jack Russell Ted. He comes with me everywhere. Yeah, just doing whatever has to be done. Yeah.
And the variety that we've talked about as well, that if you say to a farmer, what's a typical day? Well, there's not really an answer to that question.
No, every day is different. You learn different things break, things go wrong, you got to fix them, but it's just every day is a different experience and it's always a good one. So
We're talking, I suppose, about encouraging young people to get into agriculture, and not just people from a farming background, but people who possibly have got no connection to agriculture. You went to Longranong. I know some people at Longranong are from the city. They don't have that ag background. Do you think that people in the city understand, though, what agriculture is like, or do you think they've got some misconceptions or some wrong ideas maybe about the battling farmer, that we're always in drought, we're always losing money? Do you think maybe we need to try and explain about the opportunities and the benefits of farming and farm life to some of those people from non-farming backgrounds?
yeah, possibly. I think some people have a bit of an idea and some people don't. It always varies, but I think young people coming up through agriculture and giving it a go, and like with social media and everything like that, I think it's out there and people will learn more and hopefully one day give it a go themselves.
So what would you say to a young person, regardless of their background? Maybe they're getting toward the end of high school, they're thinking, perhaps like you considered, what should I be doing? If they've possibly got agriculture on their radar, what would you say to them?
I'd say just go for it. You'd be surprised the opportunities that come and the pathways you take. Like, you might go one way and then end up in rural merch. You might be driving a tractor, or then you might be a mechanic. Like, it's just such a great industry that provides so much opportunities. Yeah, for young
Well
people.
said. Well, I'll hand over to James now. James, I noted in your little bio I've got here, that I couldn't find before, that you like the livestock side of the business.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's a little... I sort of work mostly through the Wimmera Mallee, and livestock in a lot of enterprises not so popular. What do you love about it?
I guess I love actually working with them. I've sort of been handling stock from a young age with my parents. So I like moving mobs of sheep. I like working with my dogs and training my dogs. You become quite a team when you're doing that. You get to incorporate all the aspects of farming when you're growing your pasture and whatnot. There's just not a header at the end. You're putting stock on and managing them for the whole year, really.
And I'll ask you the same question that I just asked Danny, because I guess it's what tonight is all about. What would you say to someone who is pondering that big question about what they do with their futures and should it involve agriculture? What would your advice be to them?
I'd definitely encourage them to pursue their interests, because agriculture is full of people who are extremely passionate. So if you chase your passion and whatever path it takes you down, there's definitely a lot of connections that will bring you back to agriculture. Going forward, there'll probably be more connections to different fields, because we've got the challenges of climate change and trying to develop products for new markets. So we're going to need skills from other sectors where traditionally you wouldn't have seen links into ag.
And we'll finish up with you, Will. What would be your words of advice for a young person in that situation?
Yeah, completely agree with both of you again. It's the open-endedness to ag is just, it's hard to comprehend, and I completely agree. I think there's a big gap of people that aren't directly involved don't have a full understanding of the capabilities. It's such an innovative, broad sector that you can't confine it. When I was driving here, I was thinking about this exact question. The way I think about it in my mind is there's no roof to it, there's no cap. Like, you can't just hit it and then that's it. I think the way things are modernising, even coming down to social media, people having more of a sort of visual involvement into how things actually happen and what does happen on farms is exciting. It's a really exciting time to be involved in ag, and I think it's a trend. It's not even a trend, it's going to be a big wave that comes through, and it's going to last for a very long time. I think it's going to continue to build, and yeah, my advice would be do get involved, because it's going to be one of the things you look back in 15 years' time and think, damn it, I should have done that. That would have been the one that I would have been so happy with my career. It would have been an awesome spot. I could have skipped all this stuff or whatever. Like, I feel like it's a building empire within Australia, and it's a backbone. It's not going anywhere. So yeah, I think it's a really exciting thing to do, and the opportunity's tremendous for anyone.
Agree with what all three of you have had to say, and it resonates with the fact that you have all come back to the farm, and now I go to a lot of field days and forums and seminars in my work, and it's extraordinary now how many young people there are at those, and I think the culture's totally flipped. 15 years ago, still in the millennium drought, there wasn't, you went away, you weren't encouraged to stay on the farm, but I think now it really seems like people are recognising the opportunities and coming back, so good on you for embracing them.